Hello, folks. Welcome back to Driving and Dragons. I'm Daniel, and we are continuing with our D&D Reacts / alignment video series with good old Guildmaster Dan and his breakdown of alignment. If you are a member, then you are already getting the next one. If you're not a member, guess what? The members got to see this video way back when we dropped the Chaotic Good video. So we're going to cover Chaotic Neutral today and see what's going on there from good old Guildmaster Dan. I'm enjoying these older videos. I hope you are too. But we're going to go ahead and knock all of them out and get them up and ready to rock and roll, and then continue our discussion of alignment and maybe move on to some new reactions after that. While you're here, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Comment down below. The discussion here is always a great time. You always get to learn a lot from different perspectives down there, and we have a very respectful chat, something I'm very proud of. Haven't had anybody who is decided to be so stupid that I ended up having to ban them from the channel, because we're free speech here. I mean, I'm just not going to let you abuse people in the chat. So, like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let's help push this channel up. Like I said, if you're a member, then you get the next video several days in advance. And if you're not a member, you have to wait to see what happens in whatever alignment he goes to after this one. But membership, Patreon, the super chats, super thanks, anything that puts money into this channel goes towards helping our cause of just putting a little bit back into the TTRPG world. And like I said, get some friends to come on and click that subscribe button. Let's get up over 1,000 and get some passive income rolling in to help with the things that we do here at Driving and Dragons. Me personally, I would greatly appreciate it if you and maybe even a couple of your friends would take a look at Corvid Codex Volume 1, Corvid Codex Volume 2, 3, 4, as they come out. We are trying to get back to serialized pulp that comes out on a consistent schedule, great short stories in the fantasy, cyberpunk, sci-fi, sci-fantasy, all the adventure genre, sword and sorcery, all the stuff that made us love these games to begin with. We got into, face it, every last one of us got into TTRPGs because of things like sword and sorcery books and movies, old pulp stories, Lord of the Rings, great fantasy novels. We're trying to make sure that that thing is back and available, that new literature of that caliber does not die and cease to exist in the sea of garbage romantasy and barely passing young adult slop fiction that is just trope after trope after trope. So throw us a little support there. You can get the ebook for $5. You can pick up a really nice high quality paperback for 15. And heck, if you know your local game store might have some room on the shelf and maybe has a customer base there, let me know. I would love to get in touch with one of them and maybe get some distribution here. And who knows, maybe end up getting to see it sit on the shelf at your own local game store for the enjoyment of others. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and get cracking, and we're going to see what old Guildmaster Dan has to say about our chaotic neutral alignment. Okay, so this time I'm going to pick out that he had the Cheshire Cat as a neutral character from Alice in Wonderland. Now, obviously, these are not his charts. That's kind of one of the big things that I started in the very first reaction to him. And I think he even said himself that most of these charts are just outright wrong. But let's see. Let's continue this theme of picking one of these really bad ones out of the charts. The Cheshire Cat. All right, now there's going to be some serious difference between Lewis Carroll's book and the Disney movie, but we're going to use the Disney movie since that's who was portrayed. This is not a This is not a neutral character. At most, it's a chaotic neutral character. It's arguable that he's chaotic evil, but the Cheshire Cat basically exists to screw around with everybody and has no respect for anything. There's nothing neutral about him.
As you may have gathered from the previous two segments, chaotic neutral is one of the most misunderstood alignments, though not necessarily for the reasons you might think. Many gamers seem to interpret it as the alignment for the characters that can do whatever they want. They're free to be as impulsive and annoying as they feel like. They're free to help or hinder whoever their heart desires, and it's often closely associated with being a rogue. The thing is, they're not entirely wrong. There is a great deal of freedom when it comes to unprincipled neutral, and it is a good alignment for rogues with complex personalities. These gamers have the unprincipled part down. Those of this alignment don't believe in any causes beyond their own freedom. Where people tend to get confused is with the difference between good and evil.
Okay. I'm going to have to turn him up, I think, in post because he's super, super quiet. But he's kind of hitting the nail on the head a little bit here when it comes to players. That the big issue where rubber meets the road is that and this is what I said in my video on chaotic neutral and why I left chaotic neutral towards the end, was because players struggle significantly with chaotic neutral because it is so easy to fall into chaotic evil. And really, to be honest, it's kind of difficult not to drift into chaotic good either, because they're going to start to balance towards one side or the other, particularly when you're talking about people who are approaching it for the absolute wrong reasons. When you have characters who are going to chaotic neutral with the I can do whatever I want to attitude, what they're really using chaotic neutral for is a stand-in for I don't like alignment and I don't want to put any thought into it. And so I'm just going to pick the thing that lets me do whatever I want to. And then they go behave whatever alignment they decided they were going to be without a tag on it. And you can have somebody say, oh, I put chaotic neutral on my character sheet, and they end up playing lawful good. And it's just because, well, I know I'm chaotic neutral because I do whatever the hell I want to. They just use the unprincipled as an excuse to be an asshole from time to time or break the rules from time to time, and not understanding that just because you're lawful doesn't mean you're completely handcuffed to the rules. So chaotic neutral, like I said, is one of the most difficult alignments to actually play correctly. And that's because 9 times out of 10, when somebody says chaotic neutral, they're trying to find the easy way out. And as he put it, they get the unprincipled part right, but they tend to fluctuate and fail in the moral aspect of it. Honestly, they don't even really get the unprincipled part or the unethical part correct in most cases. They just use chaotic as a stand-in for whatever I want.
I tend to believe that good is defined by the pursuit of life and justice, while evil is defined in the pursuit of death and malice. In this way, a middle ground can be found in the pursuit of one's own desires over all else. This concept is wrong. Remember, we changed these terms to make it easier to discern the difference between good and evil. The neutral part of this alignment means we're dealing with a person who is neither fully selfless or selfish. They're complex, or maybe confused. We're dealing with individuals who are very clear about how they view the world. It's full of shades of gray with very few absolutes. Where people tend to get confused is with how these characters view themselves. Whether a character is selfless or selfish is a matter of motivation, and chaotic neutral characters aren't clear on where they stand on that. To illustrate what I mean, why don't we take a look at this segment's example?
Before he jumps into his examples, let's look at it for a second, the way he's presenting it here. The thing about it is, and this is what I said in my own video, is that there's, because there's two different kinds of neutral here. And are they dedicated to a balance, trying to bring balance to the world, which is a lot easier to deal with? Or are they just apathetic towards alignment? They don't really think about others one way or the other. I mean, they're not going to go out of their way to harm others for their own gain, but at the same time, they're not really going to bend over backwards to help anyone either. Where the problem comes in is that they start to drift towards chaotic good because they feel the shame or the guilt of not helping when they could have. And they start to drift towards good because now they're starting to sacrifice for others more and more and more frequently. Kind of like the Han Solo example that he used earlier, where Han Solo was always inherently chaotic good, but behaved chaotic neutrally for a long time. You could also say he maybe was chaotic neutral at one point and slowly but surely drifted into being chaotic good. And by the time we meet him, he's already teetering on the edge. Or you end up being the kind that really just doesn't give a crap about anybody else. And eventually that raises itself to the level of harming others to get what you want because you don't care. And not caring means you don't care if you hurt them. And hurting them intentionally to get what you want makes you evil.
The expected entry has pursued his personal freedom to the end of the world and back again. Our first example is both a hero and a right bastard. Our first example is Captain Jack Sparrow. Captain Jack takes the romantic notion of a pirate and runs with it. He drinks heavily, he sleeps with many wenches, he swashbuckles with the best of them, and he schemes many confusing, impulse-ridden, some might even say schemey schemes. He's chaotic because he is a man defined by rebellion. No rules, laws, or facts will tame the captain of the Black Pearl. He is a man of the listless sea, and he will sail them long after the day he dies. What makes Jack neutral is that in his dedication to remaining unprincipled, Jack has become confused as to his motivation behind many of the things that he does. Certainly he wants his freedom above all else. This goal guides a great deal of his actions. Yet, whenever the chance to be a good, decent human being by doing a solid for others comes about, he tends to take it, and this confuses him. Jack, much like those who find themselves most closely associated with him, finds himself constantly debating whether he's a good man or not. This moral ambiguity is what makes Jack a compelling character and unprincipled neutral.
So, old Jack Sparrow, and I have very limited knowledge with Pirates of the Caribbean. I think I've seen the first one and that's it. But let's take old Guildmaster Dan's description here at face value. He actually kind of highlights one of the problems. Well, Jack Sparrow keeps consistently doing the good thing when he has the opportunity. And there's two reasons for that, or two possible answers for that. One is he's actually chaotic good. He's chaotic good, and he just likes to play the role. On the surface, he's chaotic neutral, but he's actually a chaotic good character, trying to constantly fight to pretend he's something else, a la Han Solo. The other option is that because it's a movie and they need him to be sympathetic and they need him to be heroic and they need the audience to resonate with him, they can't just make him a constant bastard. Whereas if he were truly a chaotic neutral character, the way you make him a complex character who's doing the right thing for personal reasons, but makes him more in the chaotic neutral, is he finds a balance to where the good provides a benefit for him. He's willing to help the others as long as it gives him something. He's willing to step in and save the day as long as there's a reward for him, and an explicit reward for him. It's worth the juice is worth the squeeze. He's just not willing to squeeze somebody in order to get a little juice if he can get it another way. And that's, like I said, that's the constant war of the chaotic neutral character. And the chaotic neutral player is finding the balance between making sure there's enough gain to justify good while not doing evil for too little gain to push himself into being a selfish person who is truly putting himself above others to the point of harm and making him evil. So even in his description of Captain Jack Sparrow as a chaotic neutral character, he shows full send the issue of that. Really, is he really chaotic neutral? Because it kind of sounds like he's closer to chaotic good when he's always taking those opportunities to self-sacrifice for others and help them, even if they're not, say, his personal friends.
Example is similar in this way, but different in so many others. Assassin, damned man, champion of the homeless. Our next example is Al Simmons, also known as Spawn. Al Simmons is literally a tortured soul, powered by the sins of men. Given the second chance to see his beloved wife and possibly seek vengeance against the person who killed him, he willingly sold his soul. Spawn is the definition of a tainted hero. He's stained by his own sins and personal desires, but he has taken it upon himself to care for the dregs of Rat City. He is unprincipled because the harsh fate he has been dealt has left him cynical and disillusioned. He is literally caught between the forces of good and evil, hated by one and rebellious to the other. What makes Spawn neutral is not his place between heaven or hell, nor his championship of purgatory, but his own ambiguity towards his motivations. Al Simmons lived a life of legalized murder and sold his soul to hell in order to see his wife again. He was, and to an extent continues, to live his life driven by his own desires. Yet, he identifies with homeless people and fights to protect them with no promise of gain. Much like Jack Sparrow, Spawn is confused about what ultimately motivates him. Unlike Jack, he's much more hateful and violent about it. What we can learn from these two men is that...
I'm not so sure about Spawn. Though I could say this. Spawn represents that opposite side I was talking about, where it's like, is he really chaotic neutral, or has he crossed over into chaotic evil? I would say he was lawful evil in life when he was Al Simmons, before he, did the selling his soul, killed for his country, killed for whatever reason, told himself it was always for his country, but, he was basically did it because he enjoyed it. But, Spawn takes these homeless people and, provides for them and protects them and stuff. But why does he do it? He does it because he sympathizes with them. He does it because he sees himself, or he has a kinship or camaraderie with them. What did I say earlier about evil? My friends, my people, my homeless dregs, because I sympathize with them, because I see myself in them, which makes Spawn way closer to a chaotic evil anti-hero, like the kind of chaotic evil character you would actually like in your party, versus chaotic neutral. Kind of dances on the sides. But then again, that's also why I said chaotic neutral is probably the most aggravating of all alignments, because it is so, especially when you're talking about neutral in the non-philosophical sense, it is so difficult to stay in that realm of neutrality. Meanwhile, with chaotic neutral, it's very difficult to have philosophical neutrality, because philosophical neutrality almost inherently implies like a natural law. To strive for balance also means to strive for a certain kind of order, which is inherently antithetical to that chaotic side of the alignment.
But a lot of gamers are selling this alignment short. Chaotic neutral is much more compelling than just a rogue that doesn't follow anyone's rules. It's for characters that honestly can't tell anymore whether they care for others or not. They may swing back and forth as they search for the answer to that question, or they may be limited as to who they're selfless towards or what they're selfish about. Deadpool is evil because he serves only his desires, and Han Solo is good because he can't stop himself from caring about others. But that's enough about the chaotic spectrum. Why don't we shift gears and talk about the lawful side of the chart? And what better way to start talking about principles than with lawful good?
Okay, so Going to lawful good next, are we? I like that one. I think lawful good is going to be a good one to go to next. Now, looking at it here, I think he actually wrapped up very well in the end. I think he may actually have at least a more firm stance on chaotic neutral than even I put in my video, where he, that kind of idea of, I can't really tell if I'm selfish and, why I'm selfish, why I'm selfless, how I do it. Maybe that confused character does belong in chaotic neutral. And that may be I guess you could say like a chaotic neutral with training wheels. But one thing he did say that I think is absolutely 100% true is the fact that chaotic neutral is a very nuanced alignment that is ripe for exploration. And yeah, I mean, to say, hey, we sell it short, probably true. Anyway, I'll see you guys here next time. Members, you guys already have lawful good. Everybody else, I'll see you back when lawful good goes live.